Have you ever wondered if our life on Earth is more than just, well, this? What if it's all part of a bigger spiritual school? So today, we're going to dive into this really fascinating framework that basically maps out a soul's entire journey, almost like a curriculum for our own evolution. Let's get into it.
And that really is the big question here, isn't it? The whole idea is that our beliefs, our desires, even our relationships, they're all like little signposts, helping us figure out where our soul is at in its journey. It's a super personal question, so let's explore the map together.
So, where does this all come from? Well, this particular framework for self-discovery comes from Hanshi Deena Naidu, who's a master in things like karate and Reiki. It gives us a pretty unique way of looking at our own development and how we interact with the world.
Okay, let's jump right in at the very beginning of the path. Section 1 is all about the first steps on Earth, which is where a soul kicks off its whole cycle of learning and reincarnation.
All right, so the very first stage is what's called the new soul. You can kind of think of this as the soul's freshman year on planet Earth. It's just arrived in a human body for the first time and is still, shaking off those instinctual, more primitive habits from past lives that weren't human.
And you can see here some of the characteristics. The source gets really specific. We're talking about a tendency to harm people without feeling bad about it, really limited, narrow-minded thinking, and a very biased, discriminatory point of view. It's basically a state of being totally disconnected from the bigger human experience.
So, what happens after a few lifetimes? Well, the framework says the soul evolves into what's called a young soul. Now, it's got some experience under its belt, but, and this is a big but, it's still wrestling with some seriously powerful negative patterns.
And yeah, this line. This is really the core of the young soul's whole struggle. We're talking about the big ones, right? Jealousy, hatred, lust, anger, greed. The source says these aren't just, bad moods. They are the driving forces behind everything this soul does. It's like a constant battle going on inside.
Okay, so what do the new soul and the young soul have in common? Well, the source points to this idea of the mind ego. It's described as a spiritless influence, which, okay, what does that mean? You can think of it as that part of your mind that's just all about survival, getting what it wants and protecting itself. It's in the driver's seat, but it has zero connection to any higher purpose.
But here's the good news. The journey doesn't just stop there, stuck in that struggle forever. Section 2 is a huge turning point, climbing toward divinity. This is where things really start to shift, and the soul begins to consciously climb toward a higher way of being.
And I really like this slide because it lays out the evolution so clearly. You can see the great shift happening. On the one hand, you have the young soul, driven by things like greed and hatred. But then the mature soul starts to actively transform those qualities. Greed turns into compassion. A really limited view of the world becomes a search for real knowledge and wisdom. You go from being controlled by life to feeling deeply connected to it.
And there's this quote from the source that it nails it. It says, "Ego above mind is animal. Ego below mind is cosmic. No ego, no mind is divine." So when the ego is running the show, it's animal. But when you get it under control, when it serves something higher, that's cosmic. And the ultimate goal? To go beyond both ego and mind to reach the divine.
All right, now we're getting into the really advanced stages of this journey. Section 3 is Guides for Humanity. And this is where the focus totally flips. It's not about your own growth anymore. It's about serving everyone else.
So first up, we've got the teacher soul. According to this framework, these are people who are literally born with a mission to help other people find their way on the path. They're here to guide, to teach, and to really help others grow spiritually.
And wow, the responsibilities for a teacher soul they're huge. It's not enough to just talk the talk. They have to walk the walk. They have to live a life of Dharma, which is all about good thoughts, good words, and good actions. They actually help heal emotional wounds in other people and get rid of the roadblocks holding them back spiritually. And that ego? They have total control over it.
And that brings us to the very top, the pinnacle of this framework, the master soul. These are described as these incredibly evolved beings who choose to come back to Earth, not for themselves, but to help lift up all of humanity, especially when things are really out of balance in the world.
Okay, so we've just walked through this whole journey, right? From the very first steps all the way to guiding humanity. Let's just take a quick second to look at the whole map laid out all in one place. And here you have it, the ladder of divinity. It's 5 clear steps, each one building on the last. You start as a new soul, then a young soul. You evolve into a mature soul, then a teacher soul, and finally, a master soul. It's a pretty clear progression, right?
And this really brings us right back to the beginning. The source makes it super clear that this whole framework isn't for judging other people. The only real way to figure out where you might be on this path is to look inward, at your own beliefs, how you live your life, and what you really truly want.
So when it's all said and done, this framework really leaves us with one big question. And it's not, where am I right now? It's, where do I want to go? So think about it. What qualities, like compassion or wisdom or tolerance, what qualities do you want to actively bring into your life and cultivate on your own unique journey?